If you've recently been in the market for a Model Y, I can almost guarantee that you've heard someone say something along the lines of, "Don't buy now, the refresh is coming." And as someone that currently owns a refreshed Model 3, I wanted to talk about, is it worth it? Should you pass up on all of the great deals and just the overall good pricing of the current Model Y for all the refresh changes? So as most of you know, the Legacy 3 and current Y are pretty much the same vehicles. They share roughly 70% of their parts. Like Tesla went into Photoshop and just stretched the 3 out. So I'm a little bit shocked when I see people saying that they're gonna wait to see what Tesla's gonna bring to the table for the refresh Y, when in reality, all they have to do is just look at the refresh 3 and then copy paste it to the Y. I'd be very surprised if Tesla did an entirely new redesign just for the Model Y. That's just not the maximized scaling, trying to grow as much as possible Tesla that we all know. And because I know some people are going to bring up Elon saying that the Model Y refresh is not coming this year, well, of course he's going to say that. Saying anything else, well, they might as well kiss their sales targets goodbye. And I'm not saying that he's lying, but they could have said the same thing last year over the refresh 3 because that didn't officially come out till January, I believe it was 2nd, here in the States. Also, most reputable leaks we've seen are pointing to essentially the same release style as the 3. It's going to launch first in Europe and Asia, more than likely at the end of this year, followed by the States early next year. And if you're still not sold on a Model Y refresh is in the works and is coming, well, we've already gotten our first sighting of a covered up Y. Remember what Tesla did with the front and rear covers on the 3? Yeah, it's pretty much that. I can almost guarantee that we'll see something officially from Tesla about the Model Y within the next 12 months. So getting into the changes, first up, the exterior, which is subjective. Some people like the new look, some people don't. I would say most people like the rear end with the new taillights and badging. The front is where you see some people have problems. I've said this in past videos, but up until the new performance model, I was not a fan of the front. I liked the headlights, just not the shape. It looked very bland and boring. Then came the performance, which changed up some of the lines. It added the slits back and a lip, and well, yeah, I really like this one. Like I said, it's subjective. You can like it or dislike it. I personally like it. Now, real quick before we get into the next new change, Tesla, as of July 18th, has announced that if you place an order for a Model Y by August 31st and take delivery by September 30th, you can qualify for 1.99% financing. So if you do find yourself ordering one, then you're probably going to need some accessories. I have tons of videos here on the channel covering them, but I would say my top 3 must-haves are all-weather floor mats, a screen protector, and some organizers. I'll have them all linked down below, and you can use code YouTube, all caps, to get 10% off at Test Stuff. As for the interior, well, that's where the bigger refresh happened. And let's just go ahead and talk about the most controversial change, the removal of the stocks. This is the #1 reason I've seen people say they're getting the current Y instead of waiting. And I'm gonna be honest with you all here, I went into purchasing the refresh 3 coming from my pre-refresh 2022 Model 3 thinking I was going to hate having no stocks. Like I was already ready to just criticize and hate it. But then I got to using it, and it reminded me a lot of getting used to regen braking for the first time. I kind of just it kind of just became normal. I didn't really care. The gear selector I got used to in literally 5 seconds, like zero issue. The turn signals are what took me some time, but after like 2 to 3 weeks, I could pretty much hit it anywhere. Upside down, with the other hand, it didn't really matter. Did it take a little bit more brain compute power at first compared to how the car just had stocks? Yes, but I definitely didn't hate it. I do, however, wish Tesla offered a turn signal retrofit just for the people saying that this is the reason why they're not waiting for the refresh, just so they're not missing out on everything else that makes this refresh just so much better than the previous generation. Next up are the seats, which feel almost the same in terms of comfort. I do think that the new seats are just a tad bit more comfortable, but it's negligible. The front seats are ventilated, which is very nice for those super hot days, and the ventilation goes all the way up your back. I do have a problem with the ventilation though, and that's that it's linked to your HVAC temperature. Let's say that you don't want the cabin as cold, right? Maybe you have an infant or kids or just passengers that just don't like it super cold, but you want your seat to be super cold. well, it just doesn't work like that. I'm a windows down around town type of person. My first car didn't have AC, so I'm just very used to it. And having the HVAC off means the seats just won't stay cool, even if you set the blue bacon strips to manual and you put it on the max. So yeah, I'm hoping that Tesla releases some sort of update where the seat can be independently controlled from the HVAC system, kind of like how it is with the heaters. Now, I do have the Sport bucket seats, which I doubt the refreshed Performance Y will have. They didn't give the X Plaid Sport seats when they gave the S Plaid the sports seats, which honestly is my reasoning. It also took until like late 2022 for the Performance Y to get track mode, so I personally don't think Tesla sees the Y as a performance track car that would justify sport bucket seats. Though I hope I'm wrong and Tesla gives people the option to get the sport bucket seats in the Y because, well, I think they just look really cool. Next up is the rear screen, which I actually feel like is much more useful in a family-oriented vehicle like the Y versus the 3. Rear passengers can watch stuff from pretty much any of the streaming apps that are on the car, so like YouTube, Twitch, Disney, along with playing games and listening to music. And the best part is that they can connect their own headphones, so it won't play over the car speaker and you can listen to whatever you want, as the driver. I honestly think that this is a big plus for people with kids, but then again, I feel like that every kid I see nowadays just has an iPad, so maybe it's actually not that big of a deal. If you don't have kids, well, the rear screen is pretty much only ever going to be used when you need to move the passenger seat forward or backwards. Interior ambient lighting is up next, and don't get me wrong, I like it, and I think it really does add some life to the cabin at night. But Tesla needs to put out an update that allows you to adjust the brightness independent of the screen brightness. These lights are just way too dim in my opinion. I still prefer my dash light strip, which I'll have linked below, that I had in my previous 3. And it's not like them allowing you to, turn up the brightness would increase glare or something because they've designed it to where you'd never see it in the reflection anyway. So I mean, if they just put out an update that lets me adjust the brightness, then, I'll go from disappointed to not disappointed. Suspension, comfort, and driving noise. The current Model Y already had the comfort suspension after, I believe it was the 2022 production year. That made it much better than the old 3. But then Tesla refreshed the 3 and gave it better suspension. After riding in both, I think that they're about on par. But then enter the new Performance 3, which has an even better suspension than the regular refresh 3. It has adaptive dampers, and when set to standard, is better than both the normal refresh 3 and the current Model Y, in my opinion. And you can almost bet that Tesla is going to upgrade the suspension once again in the refresh Y, which is more than likely going to make it an even better ride than the refresh 3. As for driving noise, the new 3 is quieter than the Y, but once you realize all the material changes on the inside that help with sound dampening, you'll understand why. Assuming the Y gets these material changes as well, the Y will be right up there with the 3. Up next is the stereo system. It does sound better, mainly in the lows and highs. Mids kind of sound the same. This is, however, only in the long range and performance or cars with the premium audio package. I believe the base Model Y, or I think it's the long range rear wheel drive is what they're calling it now, doesn't actually have the premium audio system. So if you were planning to get the base model anyway, well, then this doesn't really matter to you. And lastly is the center console area. First up is the screen, which does look better as they shrunk the bezels. They didn't increase the actual viewable screen size. They just shrunk the bezels, which actually did shrink the physical size of the screen, like the housing. But besides it just looking better, it's functionally the same. The cup holder now has a grip built in, which is great because the old 3 and current Y didn't, and you had to buy one of those cup holder inserts. But at the same time, because this one is not removable, or at least not easily removable, you can't just take it out and spray it down in case you spill something in there. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. Next up is the sliding doors, which I originally said that I did not like. In fact, I didn't like the ones in the S and the X, and I did not like any of them in the refresh 3s that I drove. They were just really wobbly. They just didn't feel as well put together as the previous generation 2 center console. But with my personal new Performance 3, I don't know if I got lucky or maybe they just have been improving the overall build quality of the center console, but mine are super sturdy and they feel really good. So assuming yours doesn't have a ton of play or wobble, then you'll probably like them as well. I do like the design of them over the previous Gen 2, and I also like how they fully connect and you can cover up the cup holders and everything. Yeah, I think it looks really good. What I don't like, however, is that they moved the USB-Cs from the front to the back and they removed one of them. So you only have one USB-C now. It is, however, a 65 watt versus I believe they were like 20 or 30 watts before. So if charging your laptop on the go is like an essential for you, like you're at superchargers or something, you need to get work done, you need to quickly charge up, well, this could be a very big plus for you. Now, there are other changes with the Refresh 3, but they're not really worth talking about because they've already been implemented into the Y. For example, the carpeted side cubbies was new for me because in the previous 3, this was just hard plastic, but in the current Y, these are already carpeted. Same thing with the 2 trunk side pockets versus the 1 in the previous 3. It only had 1, where in the Refresh, it has 2. And I don't think Tesla's going to add a 3rd one to the Model Y just because they added 1 to the 3. And another thing that I really don't see anyone mention is the phone key is 1,000 times better now that we have ultra wideband support, which the Model Y is Tesla's only vehicle that doesn't have ultra wideband support. And you can pretty much guarantee it's going to come with the Refresh. My stance is still very much the same as when I made a video very similar to this on the Refresh 3 about a year ago. If you like what is currently being offered, you're not the type of person to get buyer's remorse when the new shiny one comes out, the price is right for you, and you need a car right now, well, the current Y is great, and you'll love it. However, for most people, I would seriously recommend waiting if you can. Like I said, give it 12 months. And if something does happen and you end up needing to buy like right then and there, waiting will more than likely get you a better price on the current Y. Remember the Legacy 3, as we got closer to the Refresh releasing in the States, the price just kept getting better and better. Also, not to mention at the time of this video, we're like 3 or 4 months out from them swapping to 2025, which I mean doesn't mean much to Tesla, but why not have the newer year? In fact, I myself am in need of a bigger vehicle and I'm in the market for a Model Y. However, having owned the 3, the current Y just feels dated and I am 100% waiting for the Refresh. And no, the 1.99% special financing that Tesla is doing until August 31st or taking delivery by September 30th does not change my opinion on this. I mean, if I didn't order during the 0.99%, I'm definitely not ordering during the 1.99%. No one that I know who waited for the Refresh 3 was disappointed. On the other hand, I've gotten tons of DMs and messages from people asking if they should trade in their late 2023 Model 3s because they got impatient and didn't wait, and then they went and they test drove the Refresh. Which is another thing that I'd like to add. If you're on the fence about waiting and you're the type that has little restraint and you've never driven a Tesla, do not go and test drive one because you will put an order in. If you are able to control yourself, then I'd recommend test driving a Y and then a Refresh 3 directly after. Make sure that they're of similar trim, so don't, test drive a performance Y and then go test drive a standard range or a rear-wheel drive Model 3, as I can almost guarantee it'll make you wait. And finally, for people worried about pricing, well, they didn't increase the pricing for the Refresh 3, and I highly doubt they're going to increase pricing for the Y. But yeah, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Are you waiting or not? If not, why? I promise that the no stocks aren't actually that big of a deal, and I'm pretty sure that there are already third-party options out there to put stocks on. If you're new around here and you want to see more Tesla-related stuff in your YouTube feed, then feel free to subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.